I'm Sarah from Jimmy Bean's Wool, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do the M1A and M1T increases if you're a Continental knitter and you hold your yarn in your left hand. So if you're doing this English style with the yarn in your right hand, often the easiest thing to do is just to drop the working yarn and make the loops yourself and place them on the needle by hand. But if you are a Continental knitter, you're not very used to dropping the needles to pick up the yarn. It's just not part of the flow of knitting, right? You usually just fly right along. So let me show you how to make these increases. So I've worked up to the point in my knitting where I want to make the M1A increase. So M1A stands for make one away, and you wind up with the working yarn away from you. So what you want to do is just bring your needle over your pointer finger, but like behind your pointer finger where the yarn is, and scoop up this loop right here and put it right on your needle. And then I just like to duck my pointer finger under and pull it snug. So let me undo that and show that to you one more time. You're going to bring the tip of your working needle all the way around and behind to scoop up this loop right here, and then bring this pointer finger under to pull that yarn snug again. And what that does is it just crosses the yarn and makes another stitch on your right needle. Okay, simple enough, right? So let me move on in my swatch to the point where I want to make the M1T increase. All right. So I have arrived at the point in my swatch where I want to do the M1T, or the make one towards increase. And this one's a little bit more complicated than the M1A if you're a Continental knitter, just because your hand movement is not going to be quite as fluid. So what you want to do is grab up a little bit of extra space on this working yarn, and you're going to use your thumb to create the loop this time. So I am going to bring my thumb over the yarn and back around so that I've created this little loop right here. Then I'll take my right needle tip and bring it under the thumb. And I'm just securing that with my pointer finger temporarily. And then I'll bring the working yarn to the front to pull that snug. So again, I have just made a little cross, and that's a new stitch on my right needle that I can keep working past and then knit or purl normally on the next side when you come across it. So let me show that to you one more time. I just undid that extra stitch that I added, and I'm going to do it again. Okay, so I grab up a little bit of extra slack on this yarn. I'm going to bring my thumb over and under, and then using the right hand needle, pick it up from underneath. And then in one movement, if I'm very tricky, I can bring the working yarn to the front and pull it snug. It's a little hard to see, but it's one motion. And I'm just going to move my left needle up a little bit to try and get it out of the way and make sure I don't drop any stitches. So I've got that extra space in my working yarn. I'm going to go over and under, and then up through the bottom underneath, and pull my thumb out, bring the working yarn to the front, and pull that stitch snug. And then I am ready to continue knitting or purling as my pattern calls for. Now, the reason you might do these two different increases has to do with what your pattern calls for in general. So usually if you're working a stockinette swatch, the pattern will tell you to do an M1A because you want that working yarn to wind up away from you on the back side of your work. If you do the M1T and you have the working yarn on the front, but you need to knit the next stitch, then you wind up creating an extra twist that you can see in these increases if the camera focuses. There's this little bar here and here, and that's caused by this being an M1T, but me needing to bring that working yarn back to the back. So it crosses or really twists that loop of that working yarn an extra time. So the M1T is great for garter stitch or reverse stockinette, something, or even as a pattern detail, whereas the M1A on stockinette really works as a fairly invisible and smooth increase. It leaves a slight gap, but really fairly unnoticeable.
thank you so much for checking out this video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing because we have a lot more yarn reviews, tutorials, and other fiber fun like that. Happy crafting!